All right, so in the first module, we talked about mapping your milestones. In the second module, we talked about paving the path between those milestones and ultimately creating your cohesive customer journey. In the last video, video number 3, we talked about dialing up the traffic and putting people into this journey and then tracking the conversion points between the milestones to help identify the drop-off points. So in this video, I want to talk about how you can use the data that we have collected to prescribe the most important actions moving forward. And I do want to call out that where you go from here, like what you do next, it will depend on what you need, right? It'll depend on what your business is lacking. For example, if you need more traffic or more leads or more sales, or if you need a higher customer lifetime value, the next steps forward will differ depending on what it is that your business is chasing. So let's run through a few example scenarios here and then the prescribed advice I would give if this is indeed what you need. So if you determine that you don't have enough traffic, you have no traffic or you have really low traffic, right? The rest of the journey and how it converts will be dictated by the number of people that you add to this journey, right? So in order to focus on dialing up your traffic, I would spend some time and energy on things like keyword research. Now that means figuring out what your target audience is typing into Google when they look for solutions that you have, right? Like the products and services you offer are solving problems, presumably. So what are the people that you can solve problems for naturally searching for, and how can we find that overlap? So keyword research is really important. You can use, there are tons of different tools out there to figure out what keywords people are searching for. A popular one is Ubersuggest, which is a tool that Neil Patel has developed, which helps establish the keywords that either your business can rank for or that other businesses like yours are already ranking for, that are performing well for them, that you might be able to tap into as well. Another recommendation here is to focus on the pain points, right? If you know that your product or service makes something easier or faster or less expensive for your audience, well, focus on the pain point. So reverse engineer that solution so that it's speaking to your audience in terms that will motivate them. And oftentimes that is moving away from the pain that they have and toward then the solution that you offer. Of course, you want to have or consider evolving or developing a paid ad strategy. So that means beyond getting in front of the organic search, how can we create paid or promotional advertisements that show up for targeted groups of people that have already either expressed interest or who we believe are qualified because they've liked a page like ours or viewed a portion of our video or maybe have been pixeled by our website, right? So developing a paid strategy to at the very least retarget the people who visit our website is a common way to get more traffic and to to multiply the number of eyeballs that we have on our various opt-ins and call to actions. This is also a perfect way or place rather to develop a content marketing strategy. So if you're not familiar with content marketing, it's effectively producing a body of content, be it blog posts, podcasts, YouTube videos, etc., that show up as value-driven resources for people who we can serve. So it acts as a natural draw for people that we know we have solutions and products to help serve. So a blog strategy would be producing content about the natural questions that our target customers have, and then ultimately drawing those people to our website so that they see our other offers and services as well. And if the blog content is valuable, they're going to continue to come back, and it builds the trust and rapport we've established as an authority for them, and that makes the conversion more natural at that point when they decide to opt in or become a customer. And then the last recommendation I have here for partnerships or for no traffic or low traffic is partnerships, right? So a lot of times, small businesses who are starting out or even mature businesses will develop really effective partnerships with other complementary companies who may be in the same space, who may serve a similar audience, but in a different way. So reaching out to people who are already in front of your ideal customer avatar can be a really, effective effective way to get in front of a new audience is to form a formal or informal partnership that allows you to access those individuals either through a joint venture or through an affiliate relationship or any type of mutually beneficial partnership. But the key to those partnerships is making sure that, number one, the audience is qualified, right? The people you're in front of genuinely would benefit from the service or product you offer, and that the relationship you're establishing with that person serves you both, that it's not one-sided. You're not making a request that will ultimately burn that relationship out or sour them on doing business with you. So that is, the first area here, which is if you have no or low traffic, some recommendations for how you might spend time or energy moving forward. So if you don't have leads, right? So let's say you do have people coming to your website, but not enough of those people are signing up, are becoming leads in your CRM, in your database, or are raising their hand, expressing interest. So some things I would focus on, if this is your scenario, are like messaging alignment. Maybe you've got the wrong people coming to your website and they feel like there's a bait and switch. They click an ad or they search for something and then they end up on your website, but the messaging on your website clearly isn't resonating with them because they're not moving forward from that point. So you want to, at that point, revisit, what keywords are we searching or targeting? How are people ending up on our website? And, what could we be doing to find the right people so that messaging is either a fit for them, or maybe it's just as simple as making your call to action stronger, including it in the header or making it above the fold or making sure that it is indeed addressing a pain point that will resonate with your audience. So stronger call to actions is something that I regularly encourage people to challenge, is to have objective third-party individuals review your website and make recommendations for how your call to actions could be improved, either in terms of their strength or in terms of their relevance. You might also just consider making a more valuable offer. I think that far too many times we as small business owners are reluctant to give away too much value. And I find that the more value you give away, the more engaged and driven your prospects will be when it comes time to make them an offer towards a paid purchase, right? So by leading with a really valuable lead magnet, be it a download or a mini series or a free trial, right? By leading with something really valuable, you're establishing your authority early, you're building that trust, and that's only going to make it easier when it comes time to make a request of them. Like, hey, I want you to buy this course or sign up for this membership. And if you're starting that conversation from scratch, it's going to be really tough and your conversion at that point will be lower. But if you have done the work up front in terms of building that relationship, if you've earned their trust by over delivering on that initial juncture, it's going to set yourself up for a more seamless journey at the rest of the milestones. I mentioned less friction at the point of opt-in in terms of the offer, but I also want to call out that at that juncture, at the point of opt-in, you want to be careful about asking for too much info, right? So asking for first name and email is pretty standard, but if you're also asking for their company name or their phone number or their number of employees or their annual revenue or any other information, the more you ask for, the fewer responses you'll ultimately get, right? There's an inverse relationship in that respect. And I know there might be certain things that you need to capture to make sure this person is a qualified prospect, but I would just consider challenging your different opt-ins, making sure you're only asking for the essential information, and reminding yourself that even if you only collect first name and email up front, you can still collect the rest of that information either on a second page immediately after the point of opt-in or at a juncture later in their journey. You don't need to require those fields as a potential barrier for entry at that initial opt-in. So that's where I would focus my time and energy if I'm getting visitors but not getting enough of those visitors converted to opt-ins. Now, if you have traffic and you have people signing up as leads, but you don't have sales or you have low sales, right? This is where I would spend time addressing their doubts, right? You probably know the primary reasons that people don't buy from you. So make sure that you are assuaging those concerns, either right during your lead magnet or your initial offer, or in the course of like the nurture or the follow-up that you have with them. Make sure you're using case studies and testimonials to actively combat the things that you feel are the biggest points of friction preventing people from converting. I would also encourage you to review your pricing model, right? If you have people who are signing up but not enough people who are purchasing, it might just be that they're not sure about the jump there. Maybe there's an opportunity to introduce a lower price tier to stair step them onto the ultimate purchase that you're driving towards, or maybe it's just that you have not done a great job positioning the value of that product, and so they're feeling like the leap is just too big for them. So reviewing that pricing model can be really important. You also want to revisit your messaging here as well, because if you have people coming to your website and people opting in but not buying your product, there might be misaligned messaging somewhere along the way. And I say that because I have done this myself, where I create a lead magnet that is really effective in terms of producing leads, but they're not leads who ultimately want my product, right? I teach Infusionsoft training and education, but I also have a lead magnet that is general small business tools. Well, the type of person who's interested in general small business tools doesn't necessarily need Infusionsoft training. So I found that lead magnet, while it was effective in terms of producing leads, those leads weren't converting to becoming a paying customer at a very high rate because there was a disconnect. The messaging was misaligned in terms of the expectation I was setting at the point of opt-in and ultimately the conversion I was asking them to make. This might also be a subject of poor targeting, right? You might be targeting people who are interested and who have a pain point, and they're signing up and opting in, but they're just not qualified buyers. Either they don't have the budget for it, or the service or product you're offering is disconnected from the thing that they were ultimately searching for. So revisit that targeting strategy as well. Or it might be something as simple as better follow-up. It might be the opportunity to expand the follow-up you have in place between those two milestones, right? So if the point of opt-in is milestone number 2 here and the purchase is milestone number 3, well, maybe you have a month's worth of follow-up and it's just simply not enough. So you could either improve the follow-up or lengthen the follow-up that takes place in that window, and that will also help with bridging the gap between those milestones. And then the final recommendation I have here is FAQs. And I mentioned this in terms of assuaging their doubts, but you want to make sure that you're proactively addressing the most common questions that people have. So when it comes time for them to make a purchase, you've done everything you can to reduce the friction and to make it as seamless as possible or as easy as possible for them to become a paying customer. So if you have no or low sales, those are the types of things I would be focused on. And then the next point here, the next milestone here is no repeat buyers. So maybe you have customers, right? Maybe you have visitors and opt-ins and customers, but once people buy, they're just not buying again. They're not coming back. And oftentimes this is an opportunity for us to redesign our onboarding experience. I've both seen this as a consultant, but I've also seen it as a consumer, where you become a customer for someone and then you just have kind of crickets, right? So I would challenge you to look at your initial onboarding experience. What is it that happens after somebody becomes a customer, and where are we falling short? How could we create a more robust or more delightful customer experience that makes them naturally want to come back and spend more money? Where could we add more follow-up? Where could we check in with them to see how their experience is going? Where could we add like a wow factor, something that goes above and beyond the expectation that was set, to really show them that their decision to buy was a good one, to affirm that through exceeding their expectations and creating a natural sense of appreciation, letting them know that we value them as a customer. This is also an opportunity for us to reestablish expectations, or to set clearer expectations, I should say, at the point of purchase. So if you have people buying, but they're not buying a second time, it might be because they were expecting something and then they got something else. So revisit those expectations and make sure that they are indeed aligned, that the experience that your customers are having fits the one that they are promised at the point of purchase. And then if they're not making repeat purchases, it also could be because we haven't intentionally designed a progression path. We haven't paved the path between that initial purchase and that repeat purchase. And it might be as simple as asking them. It might be as simple as 3 months after they buy, we need to circle back to them and say, hey, are you ready to buy again? Are you ready to buy the next thing? Are you, at this point, a lot of people are running out of X, Y, or Z, or are looking for help with X, A, B, or C, and here's what we recommend. So sometimes it's as simple as showing up at a key interval and being that guide to lead them to the next milestone. Now, if you have traffic and opt-ins and purchases and repeat purchases, but you just simply aren't getting enough referrals, well, this is an opportunity to evaluate your customer experience and ask how it could be improved. What are we doing that would naturally make people want to talk about it, right? How are we going above and beyond? I mentioned the wow factor, but what are we doing that makes people want to leave a testimonial, leave a Yelp review? What are we doing that makes people want to tweet about us or write a blog post about our service or their experience with our service? And how are we intentionally capturing stories? If you have satisfied customers, you should be reaching out to them and capturing their story. What was it about them and about our service that made it such a successful marriage there? What results did it produce? How can we quantify that? And then how can we take that story and get it in front of the other people who are like them to find more individuals that we could serve? Sometimes it's as simple as just asking for referrals, saying, hey, I'm glad you were satisfied. I'm glad that this worked for you and produced XYZ results. Do you know anyone else that we could serve? That simple question has generated countless business for both myself and for many of the customers I've seen out there. It's just taking that extra step to explicitly ask for referrals. Is there anyone else like you that you think would benefit from the service or product that we offer? And doing that in an automated way reduces the requirement that we do it manually, and it makes it happen in a more predictable and consistent fashion. And then the final thing I have here is to incentivize people, right? You might consider offering a formal affiliate program or a formal referral partner program where people can earn a commission for steering leads and customers your way. And this won't be a fit for every business, but it is an important way to consider growing your referrals by incentivizing the satisfied customers and the partners that you already have. There's probably people recommending your business out of the good nature of their heart, and there might be even more if you were to create a way to formally reward them for that. So like I said, what you do next probably depends on what you need. So ask yourself where you have the most opportunity, right? You can do all of these things, but you probably want to focus on just doing one next. So pick the top priority to focus on, and then work on speeding it up. Once you have established, like I've made this incremental change, work on contracting the amount of time it takes people to work through this journey. And the way that I do that is by measuring how long it takes for prospects to make it from milestone to milestone. And there's a few things you can do to focus on accelerating it. Number one, you can address their objections. If you know what the next milestone is, you probably know the objections that they have in terms of getting there. So focus on using automation to address those objections proactively. Number two, you can improve targeting. If you find that certain types of people make their way through this process more efficiently or more expediently, well, you can actually seek out more of those types of people. Take a downloaded CSV file or a spreadsheet file of your most qualified customers. You can upload them into any of the ad platforms and create a retargeting, it's called a lookalike audience. So if these are my top 1,000 customers, I want to upload them into Facebook ads, and I want to create a lookalike audience of people who match them in terms of demographics and characteristics. So you can actually improve your targeting, and that will naturally find people who work their way through your process at a more efficient rate, or a faster rate rather. And then the third one here is important. You can actually create smaller milestones. And I want to talk, at a more detailed level about what this means. So I'm not just saying, you've got your 3 milestones and that's totally fine. That's a great place to start. But I'm talking about spacing those out and realizing that sometimes those milestones have quite large gaps in between them. And you can build a bridge between 2 milestones that are a little ways apart, but you might have a better chance, or it might be easier to improve conversions if you create smaller steps or smaller gaps that allow your customers to make it through more successfully. This will do a few things for us. Number one, it'll allow your customers to feel like they're making progress, right? So I'm talking about from opt-in to buying course to membership. You might have an opportunity to introduce a milestone for the free trial. and a milestone for the survey. And what this does is it helps your customer know that they are making progress, but it also helps you stay hyper focused on the follow-up in each gap and make sure that you are talking specifically about the next step they need to take to keep moving forward. So rather than saying, hey, it's time to buy the course, at that first juncture, you say, hey, it's time to take the free trial. And then after the free trial, only once they've done that, do you start focusing on the next milestone. So by making the milestones smaller and more granular, it allows you to be hyper targeted in those gaps in between them, to be really specific in terms of what we are asking that customer to do. If you're asking them to do too much, or that gap is too big, it's really easy for people to lose interest or to get frustrated or to lose motivation. But if you help make those gaps smaller, you keep your messaging hyper targeted. They can clearly see the path they're supposed to be doing or what they're supposed to be doing next, and it makes it really easy for them to follow that path. So that's what I recommend, is to create those much smaller milestones, and then to challenge yourself to break it down even further. You can see I've gone from 3 to 5 to 7 milestones here. Again, I'm using generic examples with opt-in free trial, completing the free trial, buying the course, completing the course, taking a survey, and then upgrading to the membership. But you would want to swap these out for whatever the milestones are in your customer journey. And if it's a digital experience, that's fine. But if it's an offline experience as well, you can still treat those milestones as important junctures that are measurable. The key distinction is it doesn't need to happen online, but online needs to know that it happened. So if a phone call is an important milestone for you, that's totally fine, but you need to train your team or get in the habit of recording that phone call into your database, into your CRM, if you plan to use automation around. So I point that out because sometimes businesses will go through this and say, yeah, that looks well and good, but it doesn't apply to me because, and I want to challenge that, because I have found that the idea of milestones and the pathways between milestones is universal, and it only works every single time. And so I want to encourage you to rather than dismiss it, is to challenge yourself to find a way to represent your milestones and then to build the journey in between them here. So I want to finish this module as we transition into the conclusion with this recap. So you are spending time mapping your milestones. You are paving the path between those milestones, challenging it and improving it, and finding opportunities to then automate it. And then you are dialing up the traffic. You're putting people into this journey. And some of these you may already have done prior to this course, and some of them you may be building out on the fly. That's okay. These steps are perpetual, and you only do it every single time. You're adding the traffic, and then you are measuring, seeing how the traffic flows through, where the bottlenecks or pinch points are, where the drop-offs are, where people are slipping between the cracks, and you're using the data that is produced by measuring it to find the areas that you can optimize. And you're choosing your top priority, and you're focusing on fixing or optimizing that, whether it is traffic or purchases or repeat buyers or shortening that cycle, and then you're focusing on repeating that process. So the goal of this conversation, the goal of this framework and this methodology is not to fix everything in your business, but it's to reveal the next thing that deserves your focus. And then once you have resolved that or brought in the help, the consultative expert help that you need to resolve it, then you can repeat these steps and reveal your next priority again. So that is it for this module. We're going to transition to the conclusion next, where I will give you some parting words of advice.